Laura Bennett, a 29-year-old reporter from a DC news outlet, raised her phone, recording the exchange. Her blonde ponytail bobbed as she angled for a better shot, sensing a story. The school kid's teacher hushed her students, but one boy, about 12, whispered, "Why is that guy so mad?" Colonel Grayson moved closer, his presence quiet but commanding. At 60, he carried the gravitas of a man who led the old guard through countless ceremonies and crises. He caught Emily's eye, signaling he'd step in if needed. For now, he watched, assessing Petrov's intent. Emily tried again. "Colonel, the tomb guard's protocol is a symbol of our respect for those who've sacrificed everything. It's not meant to offend." Petrov's eyes narrowed. "Symbol," he said. "Symbols don't fight wars. Soldiers do." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, tarnished military pin, a Russian emblem. Its red star faded. "If he won't salute, let him wear this, a real soldier's mark." Before anyone could react, Petrov stepped forward and pinned the emblem to Caleb's shoulder, the metal glinting in the sun. The crowd gasped. Emily's jaw tightened. Laura Bennett's phone stayed steady, capturing every second. The schoolboy whispered, "He's not supposed to do that, right?" Caleb's training kicked in. His gloved hand moved with surgical precision, brushing the pin off his shoulder. It clinked against the marble floor, the sound cutting through the silence. In a low, even voice, Caleb spoke, his first words in hours. "Sir, placing objects on a tomb guard is a violation of protocol. I request you maintain distance and respect my duty." The plaza froze. Petrov's face flushed, his fist clenching. "You dare?" he roared. "You touch my emblem? You insult my country." He took a step forward, but Emily blocked his path. "Colonel, please," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "This is a misunderstanding. Let's discuss this calmly." Petrov ignored her, pointing at Caleb. "He will apologize or I walk out of this forum. Russia will not be disrespected by an American puppet." Grayson stepped forward, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Colonel Petrov, I'm Thomas Grayson, retired commander of the Old Guard. May I have a word?" His tone was polite, but his steel-gray eyes left no room for argument. Petrov hesitated, then nodded, his anger still simmering. Emily gestured to a nearby security officer to clear the crowd. Laura Bennett lowered her phone, scribbling notes, her eyes wide with excitement. The school kid's teacher ushered her students away, but the boy lingered, watching Caleb with awe. Grayson led Petrov to a shaded corner of the plaza, Emily following. "Colonel," Grayson said, his voice low, "I understand your frustration, but you're mistaken about the tomb guard. They're not here for show. They're soldiers, same as you. Their silence isn't disrespect, it's devotion." Petrov crossed his arms. "Devotion to what? Standing still? I've led men into battle. I know what soldiers do." Grayson's expression softened, but his words carried weight. "I know your record, Colonel. Chechnya, Syria, and Afghanistan 2009. You were part of a joint humanitarian mission, weren't you?" Petrov stiffened, caught off guard. "What does that have to do with this?" Grayson leaned in. "During that mission, your convoy hit an ambush. A U.S. soldier pulled you out of a burning vehicle. He took shrapnel to save you. His name was Sergeant Daniel Hayes, the Old Guard. He didn't make it home." The color drained from Petrov's face. His mouth opened, but no words came. Emily glanced at Grayson, surprised but silent. "I was his commander," Grayson continued. "Hayes was one of my best. He's honored at the tomb of the unknown soldier where Caleb Monroe serves. That's what Caleb's guarding, not just a post, but the memory of men like Hayes, men who gave everything, even for someone they didn't know." Petrov stared at the ground, his jaw tight. The pin lay where it had fallen, its red star catching the sunlight. "I didn't know his name," he said finally, his voice rough. "He was American, that's all I knew." Grayson nodded. "Now you do. Caleb's duty isn't to salute you or me, it's to men like Hayes. That's why he didn't move." Emily spoke softly. "Colonel, if you'd like, we can arrange a visit to Arlington after the forum. You can see the tomb, pay your respects." Petrov didn't answer right away. He looked back at Caleb, still motionless, a sentinel in the summer heat. The crowd had dispersed, but Laura Bennett lingered, her phone now at her side, her expression thoughtful. The schoolboy, defying his teacher, peeked from behind a column, watching Caleb. "I was wrong," Petrov said at last, his voice barely above a whisper. "I thought it was arrogance, but it's something else." He straightened, his military bearing returning. "No visit today, but I will go soon." Grayson offered a small smile. "You're welcome any time, Colonel." Petrov turned back to the plaza, his aides waiting at a distance. He walked toward Caleb, stopping a few feet away. The crowd watched, sensing the shift. Petrov didn't speak. Instead, he stood at attention, placed his right hand over his heart, a Russian gesture of respect, and held it for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, his aides following in behind. Caleb didn't move, but inside something stirred. He'd heard every word, caught the change in Petrov's tone. His duty hadn't wavered, but its meaning felt deeper now, a thread connecting him to Hayes, to Petrov, to something bigger than any one man. Emily approached Grayson, her voice low. "How'd you know about Afghanistan?" Grayson shrugged. "Old habits. I read the DOS. Petrov's name stuck with me." She smiled. "Good call, sir." As the plaza returned to its rhythm, Laura Bennett typed furiously on her phone, drafting a story. Russian colonel and U.S. tomb guard clash, then find common ground. She glanced at Caleb, still standing like a statue, and muttered, "That's one hell of a soldier." Hours later, after his shift, Caleb sat alone at Arlington, the tomb glowing under the setting sun. The marble was cool against his hand as he traced the engraved words, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." He thought of Hayes, of Petrov, of the pin glinting on the marble. His duty hadn't changed, but it felt heavier now, richer. It wasn't just about standing still, it was about carrying the weight of memory, of sacrifice, of bridges built in silence. The next day, the forum wrapped up, its delegates departing with handshakes and promises of cooperation. Laura's story went viral, shared by veterans groups and news outlets, a testament to the old guard's quiet power. Petrov kept his word. A week later, he visited Arlington, standing silently before the tomb as a new guard paced 21 steps. He didn't speak, but his hand rested over his heart, a gesture that said enough. Back at the tomb, Caleb Monroe resumed his post, his boot striking the ground in perfect rhythm. 21 steps, pause, turn, 21 steps. The summer sun blazed, but he didn't falter. He carried the fallen, the living, and the lessons of a single day. A sentinel not just for America, but for the shared humanity that binds even those who stand on opposite sides. If you enjoyed the story, consider sending a super chat to help bring more stories like this. Now, click on the video on the screen to hear another story that's just as powerful and captivating, with courage, sacrifice, and a choice that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about duty and justice. Click on the video. Sweat trickled down the tomb guard's neck, but he didn't flinch. Washington's summer sun blazed, the plaza humming with foreign voices and flashing cameras. He stood like stone, rifle steady, eyes locked on nothing. Then the Russian colonel stepped too close, his voice ablaze. "Salute me, soldier, or I'll make you regret it." The crowd froze. A kid gasped. Phones raised recording. Everyone expected the guard to crack. But what they didn't know, what the colonel couldn't guess, was that the man in the black uniform carried a secret from a forgotten war, one that tied him to the Russians' past with blood and sacrifice. And the truth was about to unravel right there on the marble. Before we dive into the story, where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that values like honor, courage, and sacrifice still matter, join us in keeping their legacy alive. The sun beat down on Washington, D.C., its summer heat shimmering off the pavement outside the convention center near the White House. The air was thick, humid, buzzing with the low hum of diplomatic SUVs rolling in, their tires crunching against the asphalt. voices in a dozen languages, Russian, Mandarin, Japanese, German, mingled with the sharp clicks of Polish shoes on stone steps. The International Security Forum was in full swing, a high-stakes gathering of military delegations from across the globe, all here to debate the future of global defense. Amid the controlled chaos, a lone figure stood motionless, a sentinel in a sea of movement. Caleb Monroe, 30 years old, was a tomb guard with the Old Guard, the Army's elite ceremonial unit tasked with honoring America's fallen at Arlington National Cemetery. His jet-black uniform was pristine, every crease razor-sharp, his medals gleaming under the relentless sun. At 6'2", with a jaw set like granite, Caleb carried the weight of 5 years' service, including a tour in Iraq that left scars, some visible, most not. Today, he wasn't at the tomb of the unknown soldier, pacing his sacred 21 steps. Instead, he stood guard at the convention center's diplomatic holding area, a marble-floored plaza where delegations awaited their escorts. It wasn't his usual post, and the shift in routine gnawed at him. The tomb was quiet, hallowed. This place was loud, alive, unpredictable. Caleb's eyes, fixed in the 1,000-yard stare of a tomb guard, caught every detail without moving. A Japanese general adjusted his cap. A German officer checked her watch. A group of American school kids on a field trip whispered excitedly, pointing at his rifle. He didn't flinch. His training was ironclad. Remain motionless, silent, a living monument to duty. His mind, though, flickered to Iraq, to the friend he'd lost in a roadside blast, the reason he'd volunteered for the Old Guard. Standing here in the heart of D.C., he felt the same purpose, to honor the fallen, no matter the stage. Across the plaza, a Russian delegation emerged from a blacked-out SUV. Leading them was Colonel Ivan Petrov, 48, a wiry man with a face carved from years of conflict. His uniform, heavy with ribbons, spoke of campaigns in Chechnya and Syria. Petrov's gray eyes scanned the scene with a mix of curiosity and disdain. To him, American military pomp, the polished boots, the star-spangled banners, felt like a Hollywood production, more show than substance. As he crossed the plaza, his gaze locked onto Caleb, standing like a statue in his impeccable uniform. Petrov slowed, his aides trailing behind. He tilted his head, studying Caleb's unmoving form. A faint smirk curled his lip. "Interesting," he muttered in accented English, loud enough for nearby delegates to hear. "They dress their soldiers like museum pieces." His aides chuckled, but Petrov's eyes stayed on Caleb. He stepped closer, stopping just outside the invisible line that separated the guard from the crowd. "Soldier," Petrov said, his voice sharp, commanding. "In my country, we salute those who've earned it. Show me your respect. Give me a Russian salute." He raised his hand, demonstrating the gesture. A crisp motion, palm out, fingers rigid. The crowd hushed. A Japanese delegate raised an eyebrow. The school kids stopped whispering, sensing something was off. Caleb didn't move. His rifle rested steady against his shoulder, his gloved hands locked in position. His face was a mask, eyes fixed on a point beyond Petrov, as if the colonel didn't exist. Inside, though, Caleb's pulse ticked up. He knew the game. He'd faced hecklers before, tourists at Arlington trying to make him crack. This was different. Petrov wasn't a civilian. He was a career officer, and his tone carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. Petrov's smirk faded. "You hear me, soldier," he said louder now. "I am Colonel Ivan Petrov, Russian Armed Forces. I fought in wars you can't imagine. Show respect." He stepped closer, his polished boots inches from Caleb's. The air grew heavy. A German officer murmured to his aide. The school kid's teacher pulled him back, her face tight with worry. Caleb's mind stayed calm, anchored by his oath. "My duty is to the fallen, not to egos, not to politics." He held his position, every muscle disciplined, every breath measured. The Old Guard's protocol was clear: no response to provocation, no deviation from duty. Petrov's rank, his demands, meant nothing here. From the edge of the plaza, Major Emily Carter, a 34-year-old Army liaison officer, noticed the tension. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform crisp despite the heat. Emily was sharp, fluent in 3 languages, and trained to spot diplomatic sparks before they became fires. She started toward the scene, her heels clicking on the marble, but hesitated. Intervening too soon could escalate things. She glanced at an older man nearby, Colonel Thomas Grayson, a retired Old Guard commander turned security consultant, his silver hair catching the sun. Grayson's eyes met hers, and he gave a subtle nod, signaling he'd seen it too. Petrov, undeterred, raised his voice. "This is what America calls discipline," he said, turning to his aides for effect. "A statue with no soul. In Russia, soldiers have fire. They act." He leaned in, his face inches from Caleb's. "Or are you afraid to move, boy?" The word boy stung, but Caleb didn't blink. He pictured the tomb, the white marble glowing under moonlight, the names of the unknown etched in silence. His friend's face flashed in his mind, laughing one moment, gone the next. This is for them, he told himself, not him. Emily Carter stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Colonel Petro, I'm Major Emily Carter, U.S. Army. May I assist you?" She positioned herself between Petro and Caleb, her posture professional, her smile practiced. Petrov turned, sizing her up. "Assist," he said, his tone mocking. "My soldier insults me. He refuses a simple gesture of respect. Explain that." Emily kept her composure. "Sir, the tomb guard follows strict protocol. Their duty is ceremonial, but it's rooted in honoring our fallen. They don't respond to external commands, regardless of rank." Petrov scoffed. "Ceremonial? A parade trick. This is a military forum, Major, not a theater." He gestured at Caleb. "He stands like a toy. Tell him to act like a soldier." The crowd grew restless. A Japanese general whispered to his aide,